To get the update in for Laura. We're still waiting for Marco, actually. Well, we can start with Laura, since that's what most people have been focused on, that the impacts are pretty minimal with Marco at the moment. But we'll get to Marco in a second. With Laura, though, the 1 p.m. update kind of maintaining its intensity with a 60-mile-per-hour wind. So it's going to fluctuate here and there as it passes near the islands. But it is somewhat trying to organize better. You can see there a lot of the storms forming around the center. And it is producing, believe it or not, tropical storm force winds all the way up to Fort Myers, with some of these outer kind of bands pushing on through. So the winds are actually strongest up in here, where you're not seeing much in the way of rainfall or storms, but this is going to continue to head west-northwest, still about 20 miles per hour, so at a pretty good rate. And it's going to be in the Gulf of Mexico by later tonight, going into Monday and what is today? Monday into Tuesday, and then as a tropical storm there, and then strengthening into a hurricane as it makes that northwest track. And of course, we didn't get a track change at 1 p.m. because they only issue them at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. during the day. But you can see there, still have it making landfall as a strong Category 2, Category 3 not out of the question, somewhere along the Louisiana coast, maybe southwestern Louisiana coast to Houston. But there is still a little bit of uncertainty with the exact location. So while the cone is that big, the uncertainty is actually a little bit more than the cone. So even from central Louisiana down towards maybe the central coast of Texas, still could see a potential landfall from this system. Of course, its proximity to us here in southeast Louisiana is going to determine what impacts we see locally. The closer it is, the more eastern side of this track, impacts will be greater. The further west it goes, impacts are going to drop down. So we'll be looking for that westward trend, at least for us. But unfortunately, it looks like this is going to definitely strengthen into a hurricane, maybe a major hurricane. Not out of the question. We'll just have to wait and see. Now, one thing that'll be interesting to watch with Laura is going to be its wind field. And I mentioned it's rather big already, so that means the storm surge could stretch quite a ways out from the center. So even with this making landfall, let's say towards Lake Charles, we would still see a strong onshore flow starting by late Tuesday and then be at its strongest as we go throughout Wednesday as it makes landfall. And I've drawn these arrows on there to show you the movement of the winds, and of course water funneling into these areas. It just kind of piles up very easily. So that's what we'll be watching with that. And of course, we've already got a little bit higher waters because of Marco, and Marco's waters aren't going to drain quickly because the strong onshore flow is going to continue even after it leaves. So tomorrow going into Wednesday, could start to see our tides go up, and they'll be highest likely on Wednesday going into Thursday. So we did just get our update in with Marco. You can probably hear it beeping over here. And of course, we don't expect this to intensify. It's actually weakening this afternoon as it continues to fight the dry air and wind shear. And you see there your 1 p.m. update. Winds down to 40 miles per hour. It's barely even a tropical storm. I mean, at this point, it's on its way to becoming a depression at any moment. And it's very clear why. Notice you've got your center of circulation. I mean, it's clear as day, and it's exposed. It's what we call a naked circulation because there's no clouds or storms over it. And all the storms have been well to the northeast because of wind shear and dry air. So once again, wind shear and dry air has saved us. And you know, we see it with a lot of systems. We saw it with Barry, things like that, where it's pushed the storms away from the center. Heavy rainfall in this area has led to maybe 15 to 20 inches over the water. But notice they're seeing most of it on the Florida Panhandle. What we need to watch with Marco still, and while the threat is much lower, we still need to watch it for some heavy rainfall later on tonight. And of course, you still got some higher tides in the lake and up towards St. Bernard and coastal Mississippi. But here's the track as a depression later on this afternoon, so it probably won't even make landfall as a storm. Continuing to move near the metro and south of the metro. But of course, you don't expect a core of winds with this. So that is the good news. It's not really a wind threat anymore. We do have some showers popping up with this, though. We've struggled. The showers have moved into the area. There's dry air over us, and they have essentially evaporated as they're raining. So as they move into this dry air, they just kind of fizzle out. We do still have some of those downpours kind of along the river down towards Grand Isle, seeing a downpour. And these are going to be tropical downpours, meaning heavy rainfall. These green colors can be a little misleading because tropical droplets are actually really small, and the radar doesn't show them as intense if you have a big rain droplet like in a normal thunderstorm. So it's a heavy rainfall, but it is moving, and you know, we're not dealing with any flooding with things like that. So rain this afternoon is going to be far and few and in between. We're not expecting widespread rain this afternoon. Tonight, we'll probably start to see a little bit more rain move into the area as Marco's core gets closer. Maybe see some of that dry air kind of wind down. And then overnight, I think, is our best shot of seeing some rainfall. But really, the flooding threat has gone down significantly. All the threats have gone down with Marco. That's the good news. I do want to show you one of our models, and this is the only model I could find out of about 10 that is doing a decent job at kind of indicating what we could see later tonight. And even that, I had to adjust it a little bit. So here's what we're thinking might happen with some rainfall. Notice we're pretty dry right now. We've got a few coastal showers. It's doing a great job with that. We put this in motion. I don't want to advance it too far. This is by 4 or 5 o'clock. Notice still most of the rainfall to our east with just a few coastal showers, so not expecting much rainfall as we go throughout the remainder of the afternoon. But as we go into tonight, so maybe by 9, 10, 11 o'clock, notice a lot of that rain may be moving into coastal Mississippi, maybe on the eastern side of Mississippi towards Harrison and Jackson counties, but seeing maybe a few more downpours across the metro area. And then as we go through the overnight period, what you notice there is perhaps that area of moisture and rain we've been watching today towards Florida getting a little bit closer to Mobile, Biloxi, and portions of the North Shore as we go throughout the overnight period, so maybe after midnight or so. So could pick up some locally heavy rainfall. And of course, if we do have that big complex over the North Shore and South Mississippi tonight, that could lead to flooding problems. Overall, rain totals have really dropped across the area for at least the forecast, but if this plays out like this, we could see some heavier rain as we go through tonight. And then we put this in motion. This is by 5 a.m. Notice still seeing some of that moisture, especially on the North Shore, South Mississippi. A little bit drier on the South Shore because we're closer to that dry core as it moves on through. And then we put this in motion beyond that. Still maybe dealing with some of those tropical downpours Sunday or Tuesday morning into Tuesday afternoon. But the flooding threat still remaining fairly low as these move through. Now this is Tuesday afternoon. I want you to notice, you see what this is? This is actually going to be outer bands with Laura. Now it depends on where Laura goes if we actually see these, but it just shows you that by Tuesday, really late Tuesday afternoon, we could already start to feel some maybe outer bands from Laura moving on in. So there's not going to be a big break and, you know, sunshine, quiet day. Now tomorrow's not going to be bad, but it just shows you that Laura is right on the doorstep of Marco. Now we do still have our storm surge warnings, but 2 to 4 feet is going to be mainly for isolated areas, especially where you get water funneling in like Shell Beach and locations maybe on the East Bank looking at Plaquemines Parish. But overall, we do still need to watch for rainfall later tonight, and we need to watch for the higher than normal tides. We'll have to watch for the higher than normal tides going into the next couple of days, and then as Laura gets closer, we could start to see our tides go up as well, with storm surge being an issue here locally, even if it does make landfall well to the west of us, Karen.